This is ILLUMENATE, the podcast about men with good hearts, open minds, and a desire to make the world better. Welcome to ILLUMENATE. I'm your host, Chris Tidrick, and I'm here with ItsLuke, a digital creator and host of the Find Out podcast, where he and his co-hosts break down politics and culture with humor and clarity. In his other work across social platforms, he's built a large audience featuring an appropriate amount of fucking rage and righteous indignation. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. On my last episode, I interviewed Tim Fullerton, who's one of your co-hosts on the Find Out podcast. And we were talking a little bit about you. And then I was having a conversation with my son, who's 23, and I mentioned that you were going to be on the show. And this is the first time he's gone, hey, I know that guy. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, I want to jump right in. And what we start with on this podcast is talking about motivation. So what's your why? Where do you find purpose and what drives you?
So I've only been making videos. It's a little over a year now. I posted my first video the day after the election, or maybe the day of the election last year. And the primary reason I started was because I saw a lot of people that were celebrating, that were just so happy about how things had turned out. And it turned my fucking stomach. I couldn't believe that there were so many people that were so just giddy at what was coming. Because none of this has been a surprise. Like, anybody who was paying attention saw all this shit coming. So I figured that if they're going to put their mind out there, I might as well do it too. And I don't know, I started posting what I thought, and it seemed to gain traction, and it went from there. But what really, really kicked it off was like December last year. I made a video about my dad and some stuff with free lunches at my schools, and it really, really went. And there were a lot of people that were like, we really appreciate and are encouraged by the way that you speak about what you think. And then it was like, all right, fuck it, I'm all in. And that's how it's gone.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journey. You are by far the youngest guest that I've had on this show. This show is, I've been talking to men about their experiences and, how they're sort of doing the hard work to be good humans and that sort of thing. And they've all had different journeys. And so yours might be a little bit shorter than most of my listeners are used to. But, we've all had these pivotal moments, significant moments in our life that have led us to where we are today. So what's that for you? So
I guess it starts like I grew up on a farm, middle of fucking nowhere. And that's a lot, I think, of how I turned out the way I did. My parents are both college educated. My mom's a vet. My dad is a union pipe fitter. But they, from a very young age, encouraged me to be think super analytically and creatively and all of the smart things. I read way more books than I ever did watch TV or anything growing up. But primarily, I would say that most of what motivates me doing what I do is morals. I have what I call an overdeveloped sense of right and wrong. I saw it described today that if there's injustice anywhere, there's injustice everywhere. And that's pretty well how I feel. Like, for example, yesterday I saw this video about a girl that brings a trauma kit to school every day in the event of a school shooting. And it was like somebody had flipped a fucking switch in my gut. And it was like, yep, I got to fucking talk about that because people need to know. And I think but like going back to what you asked about where that comes from, it almost all comes from my parents and the people I was raised around. I went to school for software engineering, and that's not super applicable to what I do politically, but what do you know? I mean, it is what it is. But someday I'd like to use it for something that makes some good in the world, which seems to be antithetical to what most software does.
Yeah, in my day job life, I run an IT team. So like I'm around a lot of people that have software engineering degrees, and so you're not actually working in that right now.
No, my day job is software engineer stuff. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I think a lot of people who see social media personality out there. I noticed you have 700,000 followers on Instagram or something like that. Yep. I'm not sure how many you have on TikTok. Some people think, they're making all their money off of social media, but you've got a day job too.
Yep. I have always found pleasure in doing software engineering work, and the social media stuff I feel an obligation to do, like a need to do it rather than like I enjoy doing it, but it's more than that.
Yeah, fantastic. So you and the guys on Find Out talk about what it means to be a man in today's society and how that's kind of gotten really mixed up in especially in social media online. So for you, what does being a healthy man in today's world look like?
It's interesting because in my opinion, some of like the shit that they say about being a man isn't that far off. It's just that it's corrupted in a way. So like a lot of them talk about how it's a man's duty to protect his family, right? And I don't disagree. I think that everybody has an obligation to stick up for the people they love. I mean, that's part of why I do what I do. But they corrupt it to the point where they look for enemies in everyday life. I don't know about you. I don't have anybody in my life that's coming to hurt my family. And it's damn sure not the immigrants. But in day-to-day life, it's like, yeah, all right, I'm going to be a healthy partner. And, you know, if my girlfriend is sick or not feeling like, I'm going to take the fucking trash out, because guess what? I don't need to own a gun to protect my family. Like sometimes it's protecting their mental health and physical health. But like I say, there are other values that they have that I don't think are far off the mark, but they're corrupted because that's what they have to do to appeal to people they're talking to.
Yeah, I really relate to that because I've been, since I started this podcast last, I guess, January, I launched it. And I kind of had the same epiphany that you did the day after the election of, I can't just sit around and not do anything about this. And it seemed to me that the issue we had in the country was primarily about men.
It is.
Right. And it's and that we need to start bringing up better examples of what it does mean to provide and protect and those kind of things in a really healthy way. So I like the way you frame that.
Well, I see it so often, right? Like, I mean, the big masculine influencers, that's all the shit they talk about. Is, I mean, you got to be constantly looking for a fight to protect your family, and, you know, everybody's a threat. And it's like, fuck's sake, man, that's got to be exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine like just trying to do that. Right. And like, I walk around my own life, and granted, I live in a college town. I work for a university.
Yep.
I don't see those men anywhere. Like, they're just not in my life. They're not real. They're not, right. They're a figment of somebody's imagination. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they talk about it like, it's like, oh, you got to sit with your back facing the door or back to the wall of the restaurant so you can see everybody who comes in and out. I don't disagree with that. But like most of the time it's like, damn, okay, there's a guy and his family coming in. They're not going to fuck with me. Like nobody's out there to get you.
Yeah. Yeah, I check with where the exits are in every single place I go into too.
Because you're worried there's going to be a fire, and not because somebody's coming in with a fucking SMG to get your family.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So another one of the topics we talk about on Illuminate here is the idea of growth, and specifically, I talk about deconstruction. And so, are there things that kind of, you know, you talked about your parents instilling values and everything, but are there things in your life that you once like believed really firmly that you've had to deconstruct so that you could grow?
I don't know that I ever believed it firmly, but I was approximately a hop, skip, and a jump away from falling directly down the alt-right pipeline. Because at least for me, I mean, I was super into the nerdy shit in high school, in middle school and high school. And I was also approximately 70 pounds lighter and 6 inches shorter. I was a fucking skinny kid, which makes it tough to do anything like, I mean, you could do sports and stuff, but you're not exactly competitive. Yeah. So I turned directly to, you know, I was good at school and I searched that stuff out online, and it led me directly to debate culture. And at the time, you see people like Steven Crowder, where it's like, changed my mind. And I'm from a super small town, had never been exposed to anything that would be like considered counterculture or anything. So it's like, oh, watch Steven Crowder own this blue-haired lib with crazy opinions. And like, I I've always thought that those debate people are a dumb person's idea of a smart person. And to me, that was me. I was like, oh shit, they've got, really common logic. And then but there was a turning point for me that I was like, they're not doing it for debate or to change anybody's mind. They're doing it out of hatred. Like they don't like these people because they don't, it's not that they disagree with what they are. It's a genuine hatred for them. And it was like, yeah, this is not something I can follow. This is awful. And I have found myself on the opposing side of them as I've grown up. But like I say, it was close. And I watched a lot of people my age that did not flip the switch. And it was like, fuck.
Yeah. So would you have described yourself as kind of chronically online?
Definitely. That is the perfect definition.
Yeah, because I would describe my son the same way. He was, from probably the time he was 12 or 13 years old, just like online all the time on Discord and like all these other places. And I was having lunch with him to celebrate his 23rd birthday a few weeks ago. And I asked him like, hey, you were chronically online, like your entire junior high, high school, college. Why didn't you go down the red pill ways? Like what was it that kind of kept you from doing that? And I'd love to sort of hear, I mean, you sort of explained it, but I like maybe want to know a little bit more about like, what was it that kept you from falling over the edge, aside from just realizing that it was hate, or maybe that was just it for you?
If I'm remembering it right, there was it was Steven Crowder that I saw a lot of, that somehow came across my feed. I mean, it was ridiculous. Go from watching fucking Minecraft YouTube to Steven Crowder debating people. But it was a video of him debating a trans person. And like I say, there's not a trans person within 50 miles of where I grew up. Never had been around one in my life. But I watched the video, and not only was he just unbearable, I mean, he was just fucking a terrible person to her. His whole crew was the same way. I mean, they were belittling her, calling her names. They were like grabbing her stuff. And it was like, that's not how you treat people. And I had never seen him do that to anybody, because I think, like I say, it was the first trans person I've ever seen. And he seems to have a special hatred for them. But it was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. So where now do you find community? And I'm especially interested in, how you sort of define and describe male friendship in your life.
It's funny. I'm a big gym guy. I go to the gym every day, and a solid 90% of the connections I have in my life come through the gym. But you really, really have to weed them out. I mean, you can find it's fucking crazy. You can sit in the sauna for 3 weeks. I mean, I do it every day for an hour. You can sit in the sauna for weeks with somebody, having, every day, shoot the shit, whatever. And then one day they'll drop something that's like, I had no clue you felt that way. Yeah. So at this point, I started off pretty simple. It's like, who'd you vote for? And if they miss that first test, 90%, it's a solid percentage that you can end up being happy with. But bearing aside the gym, I'm a big comic book guy. The whole comic book shop that I go to knows what I do online. We all know each other by name, hang out there. I think a lot of the community I find now comes from sharing values, which I think is generally true of most people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, as you were describing that, I was thinking about like so many women on Threads talk about how that's their first question.
I don't blame them at all.
Online dating is, who did you vote for? And so it's like, women on Threads and guys in the gym asking the same question. So it's sad that our society is now divided like that. But it really does at this point, just it matters, right? It really does. It says something. It says something about a person's values, just straight off.
Yeah, gone are the days of disagreeing over minuscule tax percentages. That's not what this is about anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have good guy friends? Like,
I've got a lot.
Yeah. So, what do those relationships look like?
It's funny. They span in age. So like my best friend from childhood, I've been friends with him 15 years. He's my age. There's an old guy at the gym that's 62 that I talk to every day. He gives me life advice, the whole fucking 9 yards. It has very little to do with age or really like station in life or anything. It's mostly about shared experience.
Yeah, you feel a real connection with these guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You feel like you're somebody that's just out there and like not afraid to share your feelings.
No,
in any way, shape, or form. So I'm assuming that's not just an act online.
No, at this point, there's not very much filter. I just don't have it in me.
Yeah. So I want to kind of switch into what used to be called the lightning round on this podcast. But I'm now calling it the slow rolling thunder round because it never goes fast because they're kind of deep questions and I tend to ask follow-ups to them. So there are 12 questions that we're going to go through. If you just have quick answers for them, that's great. If I find something that's particularly interesting, I'll say, hey, Luke, let's dive into that a little bit. So what are your top 3 values?
Like in a person?
In yourself, like what do you value the most in life? Yeah.
Like I would say my moral compass is pretty solid, overdeveloped as hell. I have serious empathy, and I got a puppy this weekend. And as my girlfriend found out, I may very well be willing to tell millions of people to get fucked, but listening to an animal that's upset is off the table. I do not like it. So I am soft-hearted as hell.
Yeah, I saw your video with the puppy.
Oh.
I can't do it. Adorable, man. I can understand that. I was out in Connecticut for the weekend visiting my family, and my sister is a dog trainer and has had animals her entire life. She brought 11 dogs with her to my mom's house. 4 of them came in the house, and so we've just been like, I've just been surrounded by animals for the last 4 days. But they are, it's so easy to just get incredibly connected to a dog, a cat, and when they're not happy, it's hard to see for sure. Yeah. What's your favorite emotion? I mean,
it's contrary probably to what my internet persona would indicate, but it's not rage. I don't like. I mean, making the videos I make, I do feel better afterward. I mean, I think most people do after you get that kind of shit off your chest. But I think satisfaction is probably my favorite emotion. Like the idea of getting something. I mean, it's not really an emotion and more of a feeling, but like getting something done all the way and done well trips my trigger.
Yeah, that was the first episode of season 2 of this podcast. I had my first 4 guests come back and interview me. And that was my answer for my favorite emotion too. Like it's satisfaction, the feeling of accomplishment. Like it's amazing.
It's a hell of a feeling. Yeah, it's amazing. The best drug there is.
Yeah. What's your least favorite emotion?
I mean, despair is pretty shitty. Like I have had some troubles with anxiety and like the feeling of thinking you're fucked. I do not like that feeling. It's really easy for me to get stuck in it.
What triggers that for you?
Truthfully, there's a couple things. If it's been like a couple days since I've been physically active and if I'm not eating right, it gets me real quick. I mean, my parents used to call me the hummingbird when I was little, because if I didn't constantly have an influx of calories, I was fucking miserable to be around. And that is still the case. If I haven't eaten, it is not fun to be around me, but it makes everything worse for me.
So it's like hangry times 10.
Yeah.
Where can you feel the most yourself?
With my family is easily the answer. Family and obviously my girlfriend. I mean, I live with her and it's amazing, but I have a very strong emphasis I always have on my family.
What is it about being around your family that...
I think part of it is the farm. I mean, I grew up doing in a lot of shitty labor frequently with them. And I think there's something about struggling blood, sweat, and tears together to accomplish a common goal means that every time you're with them, it's like, I remember doing that with you. Shit. I mean, I went out and helped my brother He bought a house recently, and I helped him insulate his attic. And that was in the top 3 worst jobs I've done in my entire life. But looking back on it, I wouldn't spend it any other way. The fact that I knew I was helping him with something he needed to get done really matters to me.
Is it crops or animals on the farm?
Animals.
Or both? Animals.
Okay. My grandparents grew crops, but I was all animals.
Okay. That's an even dirtier job.
Oh, it's miserable. They're shitty tasks, literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. What's the one way you try to make the world a better place for others?
It's interesting because a lot of my online personas, I get it sometimes. People think, are you really making anything better? But I feel that changes every time I get a DM where somebody says, you make me feel less alone. You say it how I feel, even if I'm afraid to say it. And that is how I think I make the world a better place. I have it in my bio. My bio is the internet's anger translator. There's a sketch from some comedy show where it's like, this is what Obama really means.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that is what I have always thought of myself as, but for people instead of the president.
So one thing that Tim said to me after our interview was over and we were talking about you as a possible guest on this, Tim said that you actually have found some traction in like aggressively telling people they're wrong.
Yeah.
And that it actually has positive effects. So talk about that a little bit, because I think that goes into this question, but I'm really, I wanted to talk to you about that because I'm really intrigued at the impact of that.
I would bet that I've gotten 500 DMs from people who tell me some variant of the following. I was really into Trump because I grew up with people who were into him and from a place that was all about him. I never really thought very much about what he actually stood for. You changed that because you said it the way you did. And I've DM'd some of them back and been like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you called me a fucking idiot and you said why. And I have always thought of it as like shaking somebody, right? Like snap out of it. And that is the general consensus from the people I've heard from, that's the verbal equivalent is what I've done.
Yeah, you're like the anti-Chat GPT in that sense.
Exactly.
Like, right. It's
I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want other men to see in you?
Ideally, a role model. I mean, I don't think I stand particularly strongly on like the idea of a masculine person. Honestly, I don't really buy into that whole vibe. But I'd like to see that somebody thinks that, okay, shit, you can care about other people and still be masculine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What makes you the most proud of yourself?
I don't think it's my social media stuff. That's the easy answer, I think, probably, but it's not. My girlfriend wants me to get a tattoo. I have tattoos. She wants me to get Atlas, the guy that holds the earth.
Yeah.
And it's in my list of things I might get done. And it's because it goes hand in hand with having an overdeveloped sense of right and wrong, is that I feel an obligation to help anyone in my circle. And I think that's generally what makes me the proudest of myself, is that I think I do a pretty fucking good job of it.
So outside of your social media presence, what does that look like in your day-to-day life? Like, how do you help people?
I mean, I flew like 600 miles to put insulation in an old attic.
Yeah.
That was pretty miserable. But like,
yeah.
If I lived with my cousin for a while. He was my college roommate, and we walked 4 miles in the middle of a snowstorm because his car was stuck and we needed to get it out. He needed to get it out, but he didn't want to walk by himself. So we walked 4 miles to a hardware store to buy a shovel. And that, I mean, we've thought about it a lot after that. And he's like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it without you. And I was like, yep. And I never thought twice about it.
Yeah. And I think it's a really kind of interesting juxtaposition, because I think there are a lot of people in the world that would do that for a family member, that would do that would do that for a friend. But then how they look at things outside of their own circle is completely opposite of that.
Yep.
Right. And that's the thing.
You are right. That's a crazy juxtaposition.
Yeah. But it feels like, you understand that outside your own circle is important.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I would help somebody off the street if they needed it. I have. I mean, I bought a truck last summer, and I had just gotten it, and it was like right before the 4th of July, and it was brand new, and it was, well, not brand new, but it was new, and it was all cleaned up and the whole thing. And I was driving down the street, and this guy stopped me. Like, I was at a stop sign. He comes up, I really need a ride. And I was like, all right, get in. I had no problem with it. I mean, he didn't look like he was going to hurt me. And I was like, all right, it was like 100 degrees out, and he asked which way I was going. And where he needed to go was right where I was going. I was like, fuck yeah, get in. And it was, I pride myself on being willing to do that for people.
What is your greatest opportunity for growth or improvement?
I think social media represents that. It's hard not to say that when there's so much chance to improve the lives of others, which I think always improves your own.
That's like fascinating. Dive into that a little bit more. Like,
I've never thought, similar to how I've never gone to the gym and come out thinking, man, I wish I didn't do that. I've never helped somebody and thought, man, I wish I didn't do that. My life is always better when I help people. And I think most people's are the same.
Yeah. So how is that hard for you?
Oh, it's not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's, it's best illustrated through a story. Like 2 winters ago, we decided we were going to go downtown and get some wings. And we went to the wing place, and there's a homeless guy standing outside. And it wasn't super cold or anything, but he asked if I had any food. And I said, I don't have anything, but do you want something? And he goes, oh yeah, that'd be great, but I don't want to trouble you. And I said, all right, just what do you want? I'll go in and get it for you. Come back out. Or I'll send it out with somebody, whatever. But as soon as he had approached me, the idea of me eating and him not eating was off the table. I can't deal with that. Like that feeling of despair immediately hits me in the stomach. And that's pretty well the case anytime somebody asks me for help. It's less of a hard thing for me to do and more of a have to do it.
Yeah. Just like feel some moral obligation for it. Yeah. So where do you feel the most vulnerable?
It's taken a long time to get to the point where I think like most men grow up with the idea that your emotions are there for you, right? Like you stick to those, they stay inside. My girlfriend was not having any of that. She was like, that's not the way this relationship is going to work. And it's taken a lot of work to get to the point where if something's bothering me, it's like water out off a duck's back. She knows, and it is not hard to share it at all. And so when you ask where I feel most vulnerable, it's with her, but it's in a good way. It's not that I trust her completely.
Yeah, I love that. And it's the people in our lives, especially our partners, can be the ones that like really bring that out in us. And they create the safe space for it, but they also demand it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I am eternally thankful that she said, none of that fucking nonsense.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because for some reason I go down the dating threads rabbit holes. Like I'm happily married. Like I'm not looking for a partner on Threads, but I'm very interested in these issues of men. And like
I do the same thing.
In the relationship things are interesting. And there's so many guys that when you talk about vulnerability online, there's so many guys that say, I tried to be vulnerable and she used it against me. Like it's constant out there. And
I see the same thing.
And I'm just, I want to validate what they're saying and what they're experiencing, but I almost feel like something's not right with that because
the story doesn't always add up. Yeah. Cause then you flip the script and you go look at the screenshots of text messages that women share. And it's like, that doesn't add up. Something's not, there's a piece missing from the dude side of the story there.
Yeah.
Because like the side that the women are sharing, you do not look very good, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just want to say over and over and over again, like the most connected I've ever felt in my life are those times when the shield is completely down.
Absolutely.
Right. I think you can't really connect unless you let the shield down.
No, I mean, you can't expect to be with somebody for the rest of your life and constantly have a wall.
Yeah.
For whatever reason you have that wall.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And it's never done. Like it's never easy. There's always that. I still have this, like, I'm not going to bring this up because it'll pass. Right. So, yeah. So what's the hardest thing about being you in today's world?
Fighting, feeling like it's hopeless. That is pretty tough. But at the same time, when I get messages from people that tell me that they feel better every time they see me, or like there's comments where it's like, oh, 7 p.m. I'm sitting at my dinner table watching Luke's video. And it makes me feel better. That is the cure for it. Seeing that there is a difference that I'm making, regardless of if it's the one that I would make if I had the choice. I mean, if I was Thanos, it'd be pretty simple, right? We're done.
Yeah.
But I can't do that.
Yeah.
So
how do you?
It's accepting the change I can make, and accepting the change I can't.
How do you take care of yourself on a day-to-day basis? Because, I'm thinking you are with your TikTok and with your Instagram and like the from the seat of your car kind of presence, and then on the podcast, like you're constantly dealing with all of this stuff that's going on. Like it has to be.
My screen time's ridiculous.
It has to be in your brain almost all day long. How do you take care of yourself in that?
I do my level best to, at the very minimum, do an hour of something that isn't at all related to it. And so normally that turns into about a 2.5 hour trip to the gym. I will end up lifting for an hour and a half, and then I'll sit in the sauna and read a book or talk to people for an hour. And you can't bring your phone in the sauna because it'll explode. So it's a really, really good separation. I mean, that goes back to, if I haven't lifted in a couple of days, I don't feel very good. It is a really effective means to keep myself on the straight and narrow.
So maybe that's the tagline that comes out of this is find your sauna.
I like that.
Right. Yeah.
The sauna, people make fun of me a lot because I'll make a video every once in a while talking about something that happens in the sauna, and they're like, oh, I can't believe you're in the sauna every day. It's like, yep, I wouldn't skip it. I do not skip it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. What's the one thing that surprised you about today's conversation? Maybe question I asked, or the way you answered, or something you shared that, you didn't think you were going to share in today's. So,
I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk about my girlfriend ripping my walls down, but I have no problem with it. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. So one more question. What advice do you have for men who are struggling to find their place in a rapidly changing society?
I see a lot of people, a lot of young men particularly, who take criticism of men as a whole as criticism of men as them as an individual.
Amen.
Don't do that. Don't do that. When people talk about how liberals don't like men, it's not that they don't like men. They don't like shitty men. So if you want to be liked by people, don't be a shitty man. And it's not that hard. It really isn't. Have respect for people. The bar is so low.
Yes, the bar is so low right now.
Yeah, yes. It is not very hard. Just have a modicum of respect for others and empathy, and it will go fucking miles.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I asked the women of Threads, what in these 5 categories describe your perfect partner, and I got like 80 responses. I took all the responses, I threw them into ChatGPT and said, give me a summary of all of this. And it was like the lowest bar you could imagine. I know. Just like, the lowest bar.
Don't cheat on me. Don't abuse me.
Yeah.
And then not very much else.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is easy to do, guys. It takes work, right? You have to work on yourself, and you can't just float by in life, but it's relatively easy. And you should do it for yourself. Like, don't do it for a partner. Don't do it for somebody else. Like, do it for yourself.
Life is better when you're a good person. People are like, there are a lot of people that are, I'm sure you have the same, that you have connections with people and they're happy to see you and you're happy to see them.
Yep.
And there's a clip or there's a quote from a show called Justified where it's like, if you run into an asshole in the morning, you ran into an asshole. But if you run into assholes all day, you're the asshole. And I find that to be generally true. If nobody ever is excited to see you and you feel like everybody's being mean, maybe you got some work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to wrap up the conversation. Really appreciate you taking time today, Luke. It was great getting to know you beyond the rage online.
It was my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So keep up the good work and keep up the hard work too, because I know this isn't easy. And I know but it's necessary. I think we need to kind of band together, and the work that you're doing, the work that you and the guys that Find Out are doing, really is like absolutely necessary in the world today. We need to set a better example. So thanks for coming on the show and providing
pleasure.
that.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, Luke. You can learn more about Illuminate at illuminate.substack.com. We are also streaming on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you at the next episode of Illuminate.